Hi, this is Sandy Pro and welcome back to my channel. Or if it's your first time here, come in and take a peek for a while, see if you like what you see. Tonight I'm going to do a craft for Easter, but it can be done for any type of season. First thing you'll need to have is Mod Podge. You can get the luster or the matte, it doesn't really matter. I also have Waverly chalk paint, and the color here is plaster. I picked up some seasonal napkins. This happens to be of bunnies. I will also have some twine. But the most important thing for this particular event is this Dollar Tree mason jar. Fall. This happens to be a fall one, but if you've ever seen their mason jars, they have them in all different seasons. And it doesn't really matter what season you have because I'm not going to deal with this one at all. Now I'm going to flip it over and paint on the back side using Waverly chalk paint color plaster. Now that this is completely dry, I'm just going to put it aside and we'll go on to our next step. It's time to open the napkin. Alright, so we're gently going to take these and separate them. And you can do this several different ways. You can take scissors and cut the shape out that you desire, which is, for me, the bunnies and part of the polka dots. Certainly I'm going to cut off this recipe. I'm not interested in that for this project. And I have to think this out a bit, just how much I want shown. So, I think I'm going to cut right up here, and possibly leave this for a part of the project. Maybe, maybe not. And determine how close I want to use for an edging around the bunnies and the flowers. I could cut it with scissors, or I could wet a paintbrush and separate the image that way. Okay, I've got a paintbrush and I'm going to put it in some water and try to separate it from this method. Just wet the napkin and you'll find it to start to deteriorate the paper, and it comes right apart. Whoa, it's a little bit too much. And even though I want to maintain the image of the flowers, I want it to be the same type of edging as you see along the rabbit ears. It's kind of shredded, ripped, torn. So I want to go around the whole image like that for myself. See how it lifts if you just keep at it? Okay, my next step is to very tenderly or gently remove that from the area, and I'd like to let that dry. But see all the shredded pieces all around the edges? Okay, I've thought about my project just a little bit more, and I've decided that I need a larger portion of the floral design on a napkin. So, if you remember, this napkin had 2 bunnies on it, on one side and 2 bunnies on the other, so I'm just going to use the same method to find more floral to use. always amazes me how easy that is to do and how cool it comes out. I don't want a straight edge on this side. Or on the bottom. Okay, so this is the original bunnies that I cut out with the floral design. And I went back and cut some more flowers out of the second part of the napkin. And they've dried. They're very delicate, very thin. But now it's time to do some Mod Podging. Simple Mod Podge. I think this one happens to be the luster. But it doesn't matter. Matte works very well. So does the luster. If I believe it's going to come out the way I think it will, it's going to look a little bit of an antique finish anyway. And that's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to pour a little bit in the cap. And remove this part. And keep my finger just about where the bottom of that was. So I can apply some Mod Podge to the general area. Oh. It's only going to bug me. It won't even show if I leave it there. Oh. Okay. And down goes the bunnies. You don't want to have a wrinkle in them, but it's hard not to get a wrinkle. And even if you have a little bit of a wrinkle or a gap, see how it's curling? It's all going to work out just fine. Because once you get that first coat of Mod Podge underneath, you simply go over the top. And it flattens it all out. And soon all those little hairs or ragged edges start to just simmer down. And lay flat. And bring a little character to your project. So you'll have some wrinkles, but again, it's not considered a failure. That happens to be my water heater, so excuse the extra noise. And I'm going to now place a little bit of Mod Podge in the area where I'd like the additional flowers to go. It's right about here. Now, I'm overlapping for the first time, so we'll see how that comes out. Now that I've got all the napkin covered, I'm going to go ahead and Mod Podge the whole entire project. At this point, we just need to let this dry once again. We are back at the table, and I just wanted to show you just how nice this came out. Again, I talk about wrinkles and imperfections in the decoupage of this napkin. People that are very particular probably are looking at that and saying, well, there are ways to get those wrinkles out. And you know what? I totally agree. And I think if I used a different adhesive other than Mod Podge, or even watered it down a bit, it might have been even easier to work with. But I want you to understand that it was my choice and my preference to have it come out like this. So you may want to do yours different, but that's just about how I want it to have an antique or aged look. So we're going back to the original holes where I clipped the strings hanging that came on the plaque when we got it. So I kept the little pieces of the ends of the string just to put back in those holes temporarily for me as a measurement tool, so I don't cover them when I'm about to do the next step. I happen to have a low temp glue gun handy today, so we're going to start just by inserting some glue right along that pattern edge where I'd like it to go. To get started. I'm going to lay it down right on that line, or try to follow it the best that I can, with an extra tail at the very end. So yeah, simply I'm going to wrap and come around again and glue in some spaces. I'm going to continue to go around until I meet up with the holes. I'm going to avoid those. Continue up to the very top. Okay, I took a moment to take some twine and insert it through the holes so we can tie some knots. So this can be hung up on a wall or by a door, wherever your little heart desires. I'm going to put the knots on the very top. I don't know if you can see that. The knots are on the very top. And on the back, I'm going to glue the extra down to give it a little bit more security. And there we go. We'll let that dry. I'll show you it on the wall in a little bit.